Таджихао, ни хао, здравствуйте, привет, як там, hello, karate, salve, welcome. Longtan Spring Festival Temple Fair. Should I buy that in China? My stuff, that is. Direct or indirect flights to China? Which should you choose? And a 2024 language review. Folks, this is episode number 27 of the Language Log Podcast. My name is Steven. Let's get to it. All right, well, we are back into full swing. That ends all holidays. The holiday season is pretty much over from now until, well, in China, I think the next one is Qingming in early March. And then after that is Labor Day sometime in May. And then after Labor Day, there's a bit of, there is Duan Wujie or Dragon Boat Festival in June. But the sort of major celebrations, the major holidays is over. Not only that, as we're recording it right now, Super Bowl is over as well. And that means it's pretty much just winter. It's just winter in the Northern Hemisphere and just summer in the Southern Hemisphere. All of which means that there's really no big vacation events to look forward to anymore. Boy, that kind of sucks, doesn't it? But we are back to a much more normal schedule, regular routine, I guess you could call it. Spring Festival has ended. Happy New Year of the Snake, of course. Shunyan Kuaila. Gongxi Fatsai is I think you can also wish some people as well. But back to work, full-fledged, and everything. Even the semester, university semester will start very soon. And I'm not sure if the schools are back in just yet. If they're not, then it's like very soon that they will be starting their spring semester, I guess it is, here in the mainland of China. Now, one of the things that happens in Beijing and in China around this time of year, or during the Spring Festival, I should say, they typically have a temple fair. And a temple fair is kind of basically an excuse to not just take over a park or basically a park here in Beijing, but it also is an excuse to try out or put on displays from around the country, different ethnicities, and also bring in different foods and different snacks. Some of the performances as well. There's like these Spring Festival temple fairs. I know that they happen in Beijing. I'm not sure if they happen around the country as well. But that might be just because I don't really travel very much during Spring Festival because it gets very, very busy. As our trip to Harbin sort of proved, there are a lot of Chinese tourists, and they're all taking vacation at this time, and they're all going out and traveling around the country. Going to the train stations or the airports at this time of year during Spring Festival, both before Spring Festival and then after, like after the 7-day break has ended, it's insanity. And unless you have to, and by have to, I mean that's the only time off that you get, then, I'd be a little bit wary of going through such transportation hubs. These temple fairs are very popular this year. Travesty of travesties. The price has gone up. And I wonder if they did this to take down the number of people that would go. And there were certainly fewer people in the parks this year compared to years previous. Now, this year I went to Longtan Park, which is not too far away from Shuangjing, which is where I live. Last year, we went to Ditan Park. But Ditan Park last year, that was the first time the temple fairs had been open in about 3 years since COVID had sort of wiped out the chance for people to go to these temple fairs over the last couple of years. So Ditan Park for Ten Kwai last year was packed. Whereas this year for Longtan it was still very busy. And as they did in Harbin as well, I walk in the gate and not 5 minutes after I enter the park did I get a request for a picture while I was eating my chwar sticks. So the similar sort of a crowd, I guess. I think the first kid, was he from Beijing? He might have been from Beijing. I can't remember. But there were a few people that I met later on who requested pictures and wanted to, and were not from Beijing. They were from around China. You might wonder what goes on at these spring festival fairs, these temple fairs. They're called temple fairs, Miao Hui, and I that might have something to do with the fact that a lot of the parks that they take place in also have temples in there of a sort. Not really practicing temples in the sense of a religious gathering place, but more of a temple. Usually, they're like it'd be a Taoist or a Confucius temple that has been there for a long time and has usually been refurbished over the last 10, 15, 20 years or so. And what that means is that although there are temples, so to speak, in the parks or in these areas that are they are it's usually a park that these things are held in, that they don't really contribute much to the overall, I guess, functioning of the temple fair. I don't know if the temple fairs, the reason why they're called temple fairs, because at one point historically these fairs were held in and around the temples. All I know is that here in Beijing, the temple fairs take place at these parks: Ditan Park, Longtan Hu Park, Taranting Park, I think was the first one I ever went to, Changdian as well as huge. Chaoyang Park is a big festival as well, but Chaoyang Park is a bit more of an international spring festival temple fair compared to the more traditional ones, especially seen at Ditan, Changdian, and even at Longtan Hu. And if you're wondering what the difference is of all these different spring festival temple fairs, not too much. And as I posted a video of this, a 3-minute short on YouTube, to which got very few views, but okay, no problem, whatever, explaining that many of these temple fairs are kind of very same. They're very similar in that they all have a variation of a series of snacks. The ones that I like to try are the garlic pancakes called guangchang or guangchang, I think. So basically, they're flour pancakes made of flour, Four, and they are fried in oil and then doused in garlic sauce, and it is awesome. This stuff made me choke. It made me cough. That's how garlicky these things were. But every year, I associate these specifically with temple fairs because that's about the only time I'd go and eat them. Other than that, other traditional foods that you'd sort of eat at these spring festival temple fairs, yeah, are skewers, of course, so chuar, both yang rou, so beef or lamb and beef, new rou, and ji rou as well, so chicken. Then you'd also have probably a lot of dessert items that you might not be able to find as readily outside of the temple fairs, even though you can find all of these, especially in a city such as Beijing. These temple fairs are good to go experience at least once or twice, but it is something that you have to be a little bit prepared for, especially as a foreigner, as a visitor, because you will be approached by a lot of people for pictures. And I posted this on Xiaohongshu asking, like, why do Chinese people like taking pictures with people they don't know? And then do they post these on their WeChat friends circles, or where do they put these pictures? Or do they just keep them in their camera roll? And there seemed to be various answers. Most of them were sort of saying, yeah, they put them on their WeChat friends wall for everybody to see. And it is kind of a little bit chiguai, a little bit odd or awkward, but it's something that has happened. And I guess the general sort of explanation for this happening is because the vast majority of Chinese people have only ever seen a foreign face on TV or a TV show, like, or in a movie, basically. And as a result, when they see a real live person from another part of the world, they kind of want to capture the moment. And not only that, sometimes I would say it's one of their few chances to be able to practice their English, even as fleeting as the moment might be. But for them, and this is very hard to remember as a visitor, because when you're getting asked every 5 minutes for a picture by people you don't know, and again, you don't even consider yourself to be very much, in the sense that, why are people wanting pictures? Like, I'm just walking around and eating. Why is this so special? But for them to finally be able to say the words that they've been taught in their class might be just that one chance that they get to use the language to justify all of those English lessons that they've had to sit through. And some of them may have not been sort of the the most interesting classes in the world. So that does tend to happen. If you're going to come to these temple fairs, you do need to be prepared to be on your not just best behavior, of course, but put a smile on your face, because it can be overwhelming sometimes where you have lots of people. Not because not only what happens here is that not only are there a lot of people milling about, like just a huge crowd, but then you're trying to eat and it's cold and you probably have your gloves on and your fingers are all greasy or whatever, and you're probably getting it all over your beard or your face or your jacket or whatever. And then someone comes up to you to ask for a picture. You're going, you know, could, what do you think of this situation? And that's what makes it a little bit odd, is that they tend to approach you at these times where you're kind of going, why would you approach me now when I could possibly have stuff stuck in my teeth? Why wouldn't you wait until I finish eating and then ask? But that might also have to do with the fact that if they don't ask now, not only would the crowd sort of move them along, but you as a foreigner might move along to the next thing. And who knows? When do you stop eating at a temple fair anyway? So I did end up going to Longtan, as I mentioned, a price increase, 30 renminbi this year. So it's about $6 Canadian, divide by 7 to get the American dollar. So $6 Canadian, about $4 American. This is up from 10 kwai from last year. And again, last year, 2024 was the first year that the temple fairs had restarted after COVID had basically ended. And so 2025, we're back to normal times. But I think, again, in order to tame the multitudes that were going to be traveling through Beijing at this time, I think they increased the price just to basically offer a disincentive or an incentive not to go and instead choose something else or go to somewhere else and maybe spread out to see some of the other tourist attractions in the city. So I did post one video onto YouTube about the Spring Festival, about the Temple Fair at Longtan. I was thinking about making another longer video as well, because I did take my GoPro with me, and I'll probably compile that hopefully over the next week or so. I know it's a little bit odd to post a Spring Festival video several weeks after it's happened, but this vlog is sort of done in real time, or at least real-ish time, and it does take time to edit some of these videos as well. So we'll get that up, going up on the language vlog very soon. Oh, and in case you're wondering how long it would take to visit one of these temple fairs, Longtan, I was there for about 3 hours, and that was enough to walk around the thing. Longtan isn't very big. If you go to a park like Ditan Park or even Chaoyang Park, those are huge parks. Now, Chaoyang is a big international park, is a big park in general, similar to, I guess you would call it Central Park in New York, but other main parks that cities would have. But so the Spring Festival Temple Fair at Chaoyang Park would be isolated to only one part of Chaoyang Park. Changdian and Taoranting, Longtan, all of those would occupy the entire park, which means that you'd have to check the size of the park before going to determine how much you actually want to see. And again, there are sort of variations of the same things throughout the temple fair. So there's games that you can play, like ring toss, coin toss, fishing and stuff like that. Basketball, of course, whack-a-mole, or variations of whack-a-mole, or things like games that require you to hit something that's at a certain distance. There are also, of course, different snacks that you can try out, different performances. A lot of traditional dances take place. Sometimes there's a lion dance as well, or it's a shengniu, mysterious creature. And I can't remember what they call it. It looks like a cross between a lion and a dragon head, but that creature is also presented throughout the temple fair itself. And then in addition to that, it's basically you just walk around, and I guess they'd have like not just trinkets, the Spring Festival trinkets, but they would also have items or products from around the country that, again, modern day, you can get these on Taobao and Jingdong, and even possibly in some stores around Beijing. But here during the Spring Festival at these temple fairs, it's a sort of a chance for you to pick them up or try something that maybe you haven't seen before. And again, many of these people speak primarily Chinese. Very little English is spoken. Not to say that you won't be able to communicate, because, as I've mentioned in other videos, you basically need to say "Jisha Shema," 我要这个 and 多少钱, 支付宝 or 微信. 微信 being Alipay, sorry, 微信 being WeChat, 支付宝 being Alipay, 这个什么 being what is this, and 我要这个, I want this one, and then 多少钱 is how much money as well. So very basic Chinese that you need. You don't need very much. And of course, 拍一个照 is take a picture, something that you'll probably come across sometimes. And again, you might need to be a little bit more patient because while you are trying to buy or eat your chuar and look at the trinkets on sale, someone is going to be looking at you. And if not taking a picture, then they'll also want to take a picture with you as soon as they get a chance. Now, we had 3 other videos published to the language vlog over the last week or so. Should I buy that in China? Direct or indirect flights, and then a 2024 language review. So the should I buy it in China video was inspired by an email that I got from a viewer who was asking, if we're contemplating moving to China, is this something where we should pack everything that we have and prepare basically to shut down all of our operations in the United States or in Canada, basically to take everything with us? Or is it better to buy everything in China, basically? And my response is that take the important things, particularly clothes that fit, pants and shirts that you know will fit, and that they don't have to be the best clothes. You don't have to buy new clothes for this. You can bring your older clothes as well, but you want to make sure that you have something to wear because as I noticed now, it's changed, it's gotten better over the last 10 to 15 years, 10 years that I've been in the country, that you can find sizes like Western style sizings. That is, you can find XL, XXL. And you might wonder, well, could I not just buy all this stuff on Jingdong and Taobao? Much of this stuff you can. Again, the problem with clothing is that not only is it going to be Asian sizing or Chinese sizing, but to return it becomes a whole lot more mafanla or troublesome over Taobao and Jingdong rather than going to a store and trying on the pants or the shirts to make sure that they fit in the first place. That being said, nowadays, Uniqlo, Zara, H&M, you might not like some of those international brands or think that you don't want to support the big box brands. That's fine. They're still there, especially Uniqlo. They're a Japanese manufacturer. They're a Japanese clothing company. A lot of people shop there. They have all sorts of sizings for a lot of different body types. Not only that, there are sports clothing stores that you can also check out. And I don't mean just Nike or Adidas. I mean also Decathlon is a huge French sports or outdoorsy retailer, and they have sizings, various sizings as well, not just for outdoor use, but for casual use. So if you can't find something at the shopping mall, then you might have to go to like a specialty store, such as like a Decathlon. Failing that, and you know what you could do from that point? You could actually take a picture of the thing that you want to buy, check the sizing, and then buy it on Taobao or Jingdong, possibly for cheaper. But if you're going to do that, be aware you might get something that is not entirely authentic. As for other things to bring to China, specialty items that you might need if you have any special needs or something along those lines. I also mentioned supplements or any sort of vitamins that you need. Medication for sure. Medication, the thing about medication is that just about everything that you would get in the United States or Canada or Europe, you can get in China. The problem is that you'll probably need to know the Chinese name for it or the Latin name for it. And if you don't know what that is, I mean, you could look these things up, of course, but if you definitely need it on a daily basis, you should be bringing something along. You should bring those with you when you first come over. The reason I mentioned supplements and vitamins is because of all things, although you can find these in China on Taobao, Jingdong, they're real. I mean, I buy a lot of my supplements online as well. Even some stores have Chinese versions of these things as well. So fish oil comes to mind and various other Chinese herbal supplements that you could use. But the thing about Canada and the United States is that they love to do 2-for-1 deals. So you can buy 2, get 1 free, or buy the family size of some of these things. And that is where it can actually be cheaper, even with taxes included, than buying something here in China. I'm thinking of fish oil, ashwagandha, um, magnesium, zinc. These are all supplements. I mean, I've used these in various proportions over the years. Again, you can get them delivered. You can even get them imported from Taobao and Jingdong. But if it's something that you can stock up on and it's not going to add too much weight to your luggage, which is something very much that you need to consider, is that how much weight or how many things are you bringing with you? Do you have the room and do you have the spare kilogrammage, the weightage that volume that you can actually bring these things with you? Or is it getting to a point that, maybe it'd just be easier to buy them in China, buy them at your destination rather than trying to bring everything with you and then possibly having to pay extra shipping charges just to get it through the airport. But there is a video, should I buy that in China, on the YouTube blog. It goes through, it's about 24 minutes. I know it's a bit lengthy, but I think it does discuss quite a bit about the difference or some of the things to consider when you are packing to come to a place like China, which is known to manufacture and import a lot of stuff from around the world, especially if you're going to live in a big city such as Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, of course, possibly even Chongqing or Xi'an. Another video we published was direct or indirect flights, again, sparked by the same email, I think it was. This is, to be honest, I think this video went on a little bit longer than it should have. That's fine. The thing about direct or indirect flights, this isn't very particular to coming to China. This is in general, when you're traveling internationally, do you choose the more direct route that is more expensive, or do you choose the cheaper indirect route, but only cheaper at the outset? That is to say, when you take a flight that's an indirect flight and you have to stop off once or twice, does that mean that you might have to pay for a hotel room, extra couple of meals, possibly even bottled water, or some other cost along those ways? Even if it's something such as, well, then you buy an extra book or a magazine or a newspaper. That adds to the cost. You might not think it does, but it does add to the overall flight fee that you'd be paying, as opposed to just paying the direct flight fee right up front. Now, what about if you had to switch airports or pay for transport fees or storage fees? These are also some things to consider when you are flying indirect, that is stopping over and laying over in certain cities. Hey, don't get me wrong. Some cities are actually good places to lay over. Amsterdam comes to mind, although I've never done it. I was going to, and I chose not to, opting for the more direct route, but I still stopped over in Seoul. A lot of people said, why don't you go to Amsterdam? The airport is right beside the city center. You can literally take a train. It's 20 minutes or something from the city center. So it also depends where you're laying over. Places like Dubai, UAE, those ones might not be as centrally located. Hong Kong, also not centrally located. Seoul, South Korea, not centrally located, but still around a populous area that if you want to leave the airport and see a little bit of real Seoul, so to speak, you could do that as well. So although I was talking about coming to China on an indirect or a direct flight, these principles or these ideas basically apply to any international flight. How much time do you have? Do you have more time than money, or do you have more money than time? And that's something to consider when you are booking a flight to whatever destination that you're going to. And finally, the last video that we published was a 2024 language review video that, again, a little bit longer, but in it, I go through in several different segments. I talk about my 2024 language successes and failures, reapproaching Korean, continuing on with Mandarin and Russian, but then also branching out into Cantonese and starting to study some traditional characters as well. I can tell you right now, 2 months in, or a month into the new year, I haven't really been studying very much. My routine has sort of been upset and is going to change even more going forward. And so I'm looking for ways to tweak the schedule that I followed before, because I don't think that it's going to work going forward, starting in the spring semester, particularly once the university season, once the university semester begins. So in this video, 2024 language review, I talk about some of the things that I accomplished over the year and what I would want to accomplish over the next year, over 2025. I think I talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the year, and basically it means I'm going to tame the number of languages that I'm going to try to take on at once. One of the reasons why 2024 was so busy was because 2024 was a bit of a hangover from 2023, in that in 2023 I really hit the spoken language classes hard. I bought a lot of packages on italki, and I continued to do that throughout 2024, not realizing that I'd probably start traveling a little bit more once 2024 continued on, and for sure that COVID wasn't going to resurge anytime soon. So back in April of 2024, I bought a bunch of these packages thinking that I was going to continue my same language discipline, but it turned out that that wasn't actually the case, and I had to struggle to finish a couple of these packages in November and December, so I didn't just lose the packages and lose the money. And you might wonder, well, why am I doing this sort of language review? And one of the reasons I do this is to take stock of some of the things that I'm doing, to remind myself of the different challenges I set upon myself over the last year, and to really mark it. And I did a 2023 language review as well. This one, again, marking it Korean, Russian, Mandarin, Cantonese. Looking forward to 2025, primarily Mandarin Chinese, possibly Russian, maybe not Cantonese, but if there are any other languages that I'd be looking at doing, one language came to mind. It was Serbian. And that's because I met this other lady from Serbia, and she was saying that Serbian uses Cyrillic and Latin letters in its language. And I'm not sure if not only is it useful for me to do this, but if I have the time and energy to do it as well. There are a few plans I have for Mandarin Chinese this year, in that I have a couple courses I have to finish, but also as my schedule changes going forward, I might have more concentrated amounts of time that I'll be able to focus on languages in particular, such as Mandarin Chinese or Russian, rather than trying to do little bits each and every day, which is what I've been doing since COVID was sort of ending back in the beginning of 2023. So again, you can take a look at the 2024 language review over on the YouTube channel at Steven's Language Vlog. Two other little bits to cover, and number one is that we've now finished the first intake of the Chinese course by email. We will be taking a look at this and fixing it up a little bit, adding to it going forward. I think what's going to happen is that there's going to be a 2 or 3 part sort of course that we have. The first one is what we just finished offering. The second one will be a story-based course offering, and the third one possibly a radical base. That is the side characters of the Chinese characters that I think are important if you are just starting out learning Mandarin Chinese, something to definitely spend some time learning, because they will help your understanding of the characters, which will then help your understanding and building of the vocabulary as well. So have a look at that. Again, you can sign up. There are links on the YouTube site, and of course, I'll put the link in the show notes for this episode as well. Finally, the last thing that we're working on, or rather I'm working on, because this is something that I do in my spare time. I'm working on some Apple shortcuts. And that is, if you don't know what shortcuts are, they're like little automations that help you do things that are kind of systematic or automatic, very repetitive. And with Apple shortcuts, you can program your phone all mianfei, all free, to do certain things. And one of the things that I've been working on is building some tools that help solve my own problem, and that I figured it'd be awesome if I could copy a word and then have it automatically translated, pinionized, that is, giving me the pinyin version of the accents and the tones, and then a grammatical explanation and example sentences, and then have my phone read it out. So these are a few, that's just one of the Apple shortcuts I'm working on. I'm actually working on a batch of them that I hope to be releasing soon. quite possibly just for free, because these are all sort of variations of shortcuts that I found online. These are not difficult things to figure out. What it does require is for you to actually sit down and test it out so that it actually works the way you want. But I will let you know once that basket of Apple shortcuts is ready, and I'll send you a link for you to have a look and download them for free. All right, folks, well, we will leave it there. So ends episode number 27 of the Language Vlog podcast. Again, my name is Steven. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, or suggestions, please do get in touch either through email or through the YouTube channel. You can drop a comment over there. All the contact information, of course, is in the YouTube About section. And we might even be working on a new website, a website in general, because as I've just found out, apparently Google offers a site builder that you can use for free if you have a Google account. And I figure that might be easier than sending people around to different parts of the internet to click up on things. All right, folks, thank you again. We will do this again. If you have any issues with your language studies, if there's anything we can help you with, get in touch. Let's see what we can do. Thanks again. We will do this again. Have a good one. Bye-bye.